Hi, I'm making orange carnations today for a sugar flower decoration for a golden wedding cake. So I thought I'd just very quickly show you how to do it. They're quite simple and quite effective when they're done. So I have pre-coloured some Renshaw paste, flower modelling paste, a pale orange, because I'm actually going to dust them with colour when I'm done to intensify that. It's easier to control than trying to get the colour exactly right in the paste. So literally I've got a tiny bit of flecks on my board just to stop my paste sticking, and we're going to roll this out as thinly as we need to. So the thing about carnation is you want a fairly solid centre, but you don't want it so thick that you can't fold it. So it's not going to be as thin as we would for a rose petal, but it's fairly thin. It's tricky to describe. I'm not sure I could even measure it. It's a couple of mil thick. It's not so see-through that you can see through it like I do for some sugar flowers, where you can almost see print through the other side of it. The bigger flowers that have individual petals, peonies, roses, things like that, they need to be a lot thinner. So this, you can't see my fingers through it. I suppose it's a couple of mils thick, but it's nice and movable, and it's not too thick and too heavy that it's going to be a problem. So I'm not using any fancy cutters or anything for these carnations, literally using standard cookie cutters, the plain one side, fluted the other side, biscuit cutters. I've gone for the smallest one and the next one up. I'm going to use 2 of the smaller ones and 1 of the bigger ones to make a full carnation. If you want smaller heads, buds, just use the smaller one for a couple. Okay, really simply easy. I'm going to show you how to do this. So we're going to take 2 of these smaller ones, give it a little scrub on your board just to try and lose any fluffy ends, and then 1 of the larger ones. Okay, pop your paste that you're not using back into your bag or your Tupperware tub with a lid to stop it drying out. Dries out really quickly, and we're only going to be working on 1 at a time. So what I've got is a Polly Pocket that I've cut the side off, and it works brilliantly at keeping the rest of your paste dry. So I'm literally going to pop 1 of the small ones and the large one in there, press some of the air out, and that way they will stay usable, workable, whilst I'm working on this one. Otherwise they'll go hard and you won't be able to do it. You can either use a kebab skewer or a cocktail stick, or you can use a frilling tool. It's just a piece of plastic with a point on the end. I'll show you how to do it with the cocktail stick. I personally prefer my little gadget because that's the way I've done it for years, but it's perfectly doable with what you've got at home. So it can either be a kebab skewer or a cocktail stick. It won't hurt either way. So you're going to want to wire the centre of your carnations because they need the support. I'm using a 22 gauge wire. Gives it a bit of strength when you've got the weight of the flower on. Now, to make the hook on the wire, it's so simple. I'll just show you on the other end of this one. You're going to bend over the top, push it round so that you've got a hook. You're then going to take a small piece of florist paste, give it a stretch to activate the wax, and you're actually going to tape over your hook to create a small paddle. And you just literally keep going round, and it's nice and sticky so you can shape it. And then when you get back to your wire from your hook, just come down a few turns just to make sure it's all secured and it won't come unraveled. Rip it off, sticky little stuff, lovely stuff. Make sure you haven't bent it, and then your hook becomes a paddle, and that's what we're going to stick our petal to. So you've got that prepared ideally before you start this bit. So all we're going to do is place the cocktail stick about a centimetre onto our cut circle, and we're going to work on each one of these little bumps at a time. So you're going to pop the cocktail stick on, lay it on the board, put your finger near the petal, not on the petal. I tend to use this finger just in the center just to support it while I'm doing it. And you're going to literally give it a roll backwards and forwards. There we go. Yeah, make sure you've got a round cocktail stick, that helps. And then we're just going to move on to the next one and repeat. So we're only on by about a centimetre. I'm going to swap back to this because I've been doing it for a couple of hours with this morning and I've got used to it. So you're literally pressing down and rolling backwards and forwards, and it's flat on a hard surface, not a foam pad. It doesn't work as well on a foam pad, and it doesn't matter if it tears a little bit or it gets a bit see-through at the ends. All adds to the finish of the flower. They're not the tidiest of flowers. They're beautiful, but frilly is the best description for a carnation. So we're just literally going to keep working our way around our circle. For each one of the little bumps, we're going to do exactly the same thing. Just keep rolling. And then as you move around, you can see it starting to ruffle up the one before. It's fine. It all will make sense shortly when we put it on the wire. This is a very simple method. These are not botanically correct carnations. They're a very quick and simple way to get some for a cake display. So I'm going to use a little bit of edible glue, but you can use water. Be quite sparing with it. You don't want it soggy. So just in the center, small amount of the glue. Take our paddle that we made earlier, and the end without the hook on goes into the center of the flower, all the way towards your hook at the end. And then we're literally going to try and coordinate fingers. We're literally going to pinch it in half into a semicircle. Pinch above the paddle. You can just see the paddle in the center there. Pinch above that so that when you look down the end, you can't see the green taped paddle. Okay, and that is basically your first step. So the second step to making the center, bear in mind this is a 3-petal flower, is to put a tiny bit of glue on this quarter, and I mean a tiny bit. And what you're going to do is you're going to bring it across and fold it up so that this side of the semicircle becomes a vertical fold. Okay, then you're going to turn the whole thing over and do the same thing. So a tiny bit of glue here and bring it across and push it up. So you've got that horizontal line has now become a vertical line. Okay, it's as simple as that. That's your center. Now give the base of your flower a little twiddle between your fingers just to, 1, tidy it up, 2, make sure it's below your paddly part, otherwise it's going to just pull off when you're working on it for the next one. Give it a little pinch to make it round again, and that really is that simple. That's the center of your flower. Okay, and then I've got a piece of foam, just pop it in and move on to the next one. And while you're doing the next one, this center is drying, so once you've done 3 or 4 or however many you need, you can then go on to making the second petals frilly and go back to the first one you did. It'll be nice and firm, ready to put your next petal on. Mine won't be. I'm going to show you it now, so if I take my time a little bit, it should be firm enough to be able to do it. So exactly the same process, about a centimetre on. Give it a roll, move on to the next one. You actually get surprisingly quick after you've done 2 or 3. And put some good music on in the background. It's not too bad a job. I could sit and make these for a couple of hours at least, and you'll have some beautiful flowers ready to then dust once they're dry, and that gives the flower its depth and variation in colour. So we just keep going, each bump, round we go. Finger gets a bit pins and needly after a while, just stop, go and get a cup of tea, whatever, and then come back to it. But make sure if you're walking away from any pre-cut petals that you have sealed them up in some plastic or tub, so that they don't dry out while you're not working on them, because there's nothing more heartbreaking than having cut them all only to find that they've all gone crusty, and as you try and frill them, they're just breaking in your hands. So again, a little bit of glue in the center. So this is our second row on our carnation. So here's the first one we did. Literally just done this one, so it's still very, very soft to the touch and very delicate because it's very thin now. Pretend it's gone firm. So again, we're going to pop the end of the wire in and lift it up to the base where we were here. Now, ideally what you want to do is come a little further up because you want the edges to be level with the edges of the previous one. If we start too far down, it'll have a dome shape. We don't want that just yet. We want a nice fat center. Now, I'm going to go round, and I don't know if you can see that at the back. I'm going to pinch a bit here and there because it's too big to go in one place. So if you can see that, you've got a couple of pinches in there, and then all you're going to do is just lay those in one direction or the other, both directions, change directions, it doesn't matter. But you're going to push that against the previous set of petal. So now you can see I've got a couple of folds in here. It's not going to hurt. It adds to the full effect and the twisty windy effect of the flower. Now at this point, because these petals are a little less compact, if I was to put it upright like this, I might find that this edges, it's just started to start to open and drop. So what you can do then is hang it upside down on anything by bending the wire into a hook like that, and I can literally hang it on the laptop in front of me where I'm working. It's not going to hurt. If you've got a pasta rack, anything and everything, you can find a cooling rack, pop it onto a couple of saucepans so you've got some depth underneath it, and then you can hang multiple flowers on it. So again, small amount of edible glue or water in the center. I'm going right to the edge of my center, to the edge of the ruffle, because we want it to stick. So this is the two petals. I made this one a little while ago, so it's nice and firm now in the center. I'm not going to hurt it too much to handle it. So we do exactly the same thing again. End into the center of the petal. Bring it all the way up. Now, because this one's bigger, you can start from when it meets the one before. So we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to pinch in a couple of places because this one's much bigger than the previous ones. And we want to get a nice compact looking carnation. Oh, right. If it sticks, if you're quick, you can just peel it back again, give it a pinch and pop it back up. There we go. Now, because the centre is quite firm, I'm not too frightened of pushing against it to get it to close up. You can see that. Now, this one definitely needs hanging upside down. If we were to leave it like that, by the time we came back to it, it would all be hanging upside down like that, and that's not what carnations look like. So as you can see, it's starting to fill out. If you wanted to go bigger, I would say you could probably do another one, but that's probably about your limit in terms of carnation. They're not very fat heads. They're quite small and compact. Now, underneath, you can see all of these little folds. It's not going to hurt. If you think it's a bit too open for you, turn it upside down just very gently in a circle, very gently with your hands and your fingers. Close those back up. There you go. And then you can see that you haven't got that openness that we had before. So this one definitely needs to dry hanging upside down. So again, you just bend your wire and hang it on just about anything you can find that you can hang things on. And they're now quite firm. If you were displaying these on their own, then I would colour some paste green, cut a calyx, which is normally, you could use a star-shaped cutter if that's all you've got at home. These ones are specific petal flower cutters. You buy in sets, roses have them with a calyx or whatever. Cut that out in the green, pop the centre of your wire into the centre and pull it up to the base here, and what you would do is glue the centre and only halfway up your calyx. Leave the other half of the ends of your calyx free of glue, because generally they're curled back slightly. So you would stick it down without pulling it up too far, stick it down, turn it up the right way, and then just curl each individual calyx end back slightly. Yeah, and that would be your finished article. My wires are already pre-taped. I do buy pre-taped wires, but I do tend with certain flowers to have thicker stalks. Carnations come with quite thick stalks, as you know, with the knobbly bobbly bits on. I'm not worrying about my calyx and things like that, because these are going to be tightly packed in a spray on top of a cake, so nobody's actually going to see the back of the flowers. There's no point working any harder than you actually have to. So that's the finished product, and then all I'm going to do when it's completely dry is to use a mix of yellows and oranges in dust with a fine brush, and just dust the flower and then steam it to get the dust to set, and that way I can control the colour of it. It can be deeper inside, lighter towards the edges. I'll make a little clip of me colouring one just so you can see the finished product. Thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed it.